So the interview I watched was on a man named Joel Rifkin. He is a serial killer, convicted in 1993 in Manhattan, New York. He was convicted of 17 counts of homicide and was sentenced to 230 years in prison. Um, he's a serial killer because most of his motivation was to seek either sexual pleasure or arousal of any kind, just for the fact that he fantasized over strangulation of these women. All of them were, as I said, all of them were women, 17 women, and they were all prostitutes that he found off the side of off the side of the east side of Manhattan. So a few things that I thought was interesting. I have a list here. So most his upbringing was pretty rough. He was adopted at the age of 11, I think is what it said. And he always felt as he was a disappointment to his family and especially his father. He was always trying to live up to his father's expectations and always failed to exceed his own expectations of what he should be. He had severe dyslexia, along with being incredibly bullied, intensely bullied all throughout his schooling years up until college. Like he's in the interview, it pretty much points out that no matter where or when he was or like who it was, they always found a way to bully him. He even said, the convicted killer Joel even said that he brought out the bully in everyone, which was interesting. During these years he developed fantasies about like violently either hurting or watching women hurt each other. This was not due completely to sexual arousal because he was 11 and didn't actually know everything about that, but it was just for the arousal of it, excitement, I guess. His first victim was him going into college. He was ashamed that he was a virgin still, and he decided to go the easiest route and find a prostitute. And he went out and did that. And after he went out and got his first prostitute, it was kind of a downhill from there. Everything rolled downhill. He became addicted to it, and that addiction was to fill the empty hole of like being lonely. So his first victim, which is always the most important one because this is him stepping into the light of being a killer, being a serial killer. His first victim was another prostitute that was heavily addicted to drugs, and in him trying to do these sexual acts with these prostitutes, he points out that he's always trying to look for belonging and didn't want to feel lonely. And this one was different because he wanted that, but the prostitute wasn't giving that to him. She was constantly asking him for money for drugs and constantly asking to sleep and everything like that. He took her to his house, which he shared with his mother and sister at the time, he said around 10 to 11 hours. So then he kills her because she's constantly asking for these things and not giving anything that he wanted. He wasn't receiving the love and affection that he was desiring. So then he kills her by both hitting her head over the head with an artillery shell and then acting out one of his fantasies, which was strangulation, and eventually she died. And then in order to get rid of the body and all the parts, he dismembers her in the smallest parts and disposes her body across New York and New Jersey. Now all of that, like watching just all of the events that happened, like that's a lot, obviously. He got away with 17 counts after that, and he was only arrested because, another interesting point, he was only arrested because he had mistaken an exit and taken an exit into the city with a body in the back of his truck. And his truck didn't have any license plate. Police saw it, tried to pull him over, he ran, and then they found the body. He was arrested. He went 4 years without any detection as being a killer. He got away with 17 counts of murder, and because it was his 17th was the one that was in the back of the car, or back of the truck. And when the police arrested him too, I thought it was interesting. He vividly remembered everything. Like, he wrote down vivid descriptions of every single murder that he ever committed, it just for them. And like, he could recall every detail, which was, I mean, that is a key, it's a key, like, pinpoint, like, that's someone that could do that. Like, someone that's a psychopath always normally can remember everything, all the details and stuff. And he also collected like mementos from every murder that he did. And every time he had those mementos in his hands, he was able to immediately recall everything and relive those, his own fantasies about those things. Overall, I mean, it's pretty interesting, because, I mean, it's a regular guy that was neglected when he was a child. He was adopted out very young, lived with a family that he couldn't find a connection with, and then was consistently and constantly bullied, regardless of who it was or where he was. Just because he couldn't find any woman that was in his life already in school that would want to be with him, he decided to go to the alternative and pay for sex. And him doing that, all of these like perfect storm events like created this monster. But in the end, he was sentenced to, like I said, 230 years of prison time, which I think is more than a gracious plenty. And I hope he, in the interview, it was weird because he seemed, I guess, I don't know the word, but he seemed very, like, acceptant of the fate he had. Like, he knew he was going to waste away and die. Like, that was pretty much it. But that is about it.